Hi, Katie Lambert. Thanks so much for being on the Positively Joy podcast.
Hey. Well, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, so glad you're here. You're doing a lot. You are the co-host of Untying the Knot and the founder of MomNation with a sister divorce group now that's on Facebook. That's a lot. And I'm so glad that I found you because there are a lot of single moms who are going through, some of the issues that we talk about on this show. So I just, again, thanks for doing what you do and thanks for being here.
Yeah, you bet. I appreciate that so much. And honestly, I feel like there just isn't enough support out there and there just can't be enough resources out there. I think about, back going through my divorce and what could have been useful to me at that time. And so I just went ahead and created it.
Same. I mean, I got divorced in 2003. And while I'm sure that there were things around, for example, there is an organization called Divorce Care.
Mm-hmm.
I am a co-leader of that at my church right now. But at the time, I didn't know it. I had never heard of it. I didn't know anything about it. And sometimes you just are adrift when this happens, right?
Yeah.
And I did not know where to go or what to do.
And that makes so much sense to me. And I think back during that time in my life, and when we're under so much stress and there's so much unknown ahead of us, I feel like we kind of lose access to our otherwise very resourceful selves. When I think back to it, I'm it's almost facepalm, right? Like, well, why didn't I know that? Well, why didn't I know to call that person? Why didn't I think of that? And it's because we're worried about other things, right? The mind is focused on other things and we may lose that ability to access certain parts when we're in that fight or flight, right? And so my idea was, well, I'd like to just make it a one-stop shop for moms.
I'm glad you did. I'm really glad you did. And sometimes you do find something, but it doesn't take care of the whole situation. And you and I just spoke. I'm not a mom. I was in a relationship where my ex-husband didn't want kids, and so that made the decision for me. Mm. However, I can certainly understand that these things are happening and your mind is to go to the child. You want to find all the resources for the children, which is important and great, but sometimes you don't think about yourself, right?
Probably most of the time, Yvette. I mean, I feel like just as women in general, unfortunately, we're kind of programmed that way to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
And then once tragedy strikes and change is, in the atmosphere, I feel like it's even worse.
Yeah, I would agree. So tell us about how MomNation got started, and then we'll kind of dive into the other things that you're doing.
That is such a great story, honestly. So my divorce story actually somewhat was the catalyst for MomNation being born, and I'll explain why. So my current husband, who is my son's father, is actually my second husband. Mm-hmm. And so my first husband and we got married so young, Yvette. Before we even knew who we were, really. We were just kids. And not that I really can't point to anything specific in my marriage that, ended it, except for we just grew apart. We just weren't the same, right? I mean, we just weren't the same person anymore once we sort of grew into ourselves and got further into adulthood. And so that didn't end up working out. We went the divorce route. And at that time, I wasn't really on board with having kids. It was something that my ex-husband and I weren't going to do. We had decided not to. So my mind was not there. Mm-hmm. Fast forward, met my current husband, and all of a sudden, oh my gosh, that changed, right? And there's so many perfect things had lined up with him and I that I was thinking, I was 35 at the time. And I was thinking, it's now or never. If I don't do it now, I'm not going to do it. The friends that I had at that time either weren't doing the kid thing. So they were like I was prior to, my current relationship, or they had already been there, done that. We were 35, 38, 40 years old. Their kids were grown. They were out of the diaper thing. They were out of that. So when I got pregnant, I quickly realized I'm alone here. I have no idea what I'm doing. And I need some help. I need some girlfriends. I need some assistance. I need some people that have been through it before that can help me out, that can tell me whether I'm crazy or not. If I'm up at 2 a.m, maybe they are too, doing the feeding thing. And so that's honestly how MomNation was born. I thought, I can't leave the house anymore because it's just, you got to take everything in the kitchen sink. It's just ridiculous. And so that is sort of when it started to become popular to create groups on Facebook. It's about 11 years ago. And so I thought, you know what, I'll pop it up. Worst case scenario is it just doesn't do anything. It's just a flop. Best case scenario, I make a couple of friends out of the deal. And lo and behold, we are 11 years later, we are almost at 13,000 members.
Congratulations. That's amazing.
Thank you. And we've got a whole slew of podcasts to act as resources for these moms and these women. One of them being Untying the Knot, which is part of the divorce community. So that's the long story. I thought I said it was going to be short, didn't I? Sorry.
Okay. So when did you realize, you started this for yourself, which, hey, congratulations, good for you, right?
Thank you.
But then you realized that I can help more women. And you weren't necessarily in that situation anymore. You had remarried.
Correct.
I remarried too. I just want to point out that, and I've said this before on the show, my show is not a marriage bashing show at all. Some people get remarried, some people don't. And that's fine. But the lessons that you learn from the divorce, and sometimes even the guilt that you carry with you, I mean, a lot of times that necessarily doesn't go away, or it doesn't go away immediately.
Yeah.
So when did you realize, okay, I can help more women, and even though I'm not divorced, there's a need for this divorce community that's under the umbrella of MomNation. Like, how did that come around?
It honestly was a natural transition. Once I met Miranda specialized, so she's my co-host for Untying the Knot. She specializes in an internal work. And she works with a lot of women, and she kind of helps bridge the gap between you and you. Like, helping you have a better relationship with yourself, because really that's where everything starts, we believe. And once I met her and we started talking about our stories, now Miranda's been divorced twice and she's not currently remarried, and she's very open about that. So it's okay that I share that. But we started to kind of compare our stories. We realized how very different our stories were. And then we both came to this conclusion. We didn't have enough people to talk this through with when we were going through what we went through. Very different situation on her end. She had kids. So through both of them. So she had more on her plate, if you will, than what I was dealing with. And my parents are divorced. So I could relate very well with what she went through from the child's perspective. And we were like two little ladies just chatting back and forth one day. We met for coffee, and, all of a sudden 2 hours go by and we decided, you know what? People need to hear our story. We need to talk about this. The more that we talk about what's going on with us, the more I feel that other people feel less alone, feel less isolated in what's going on with them.
Yeah.
And that's really how it was born.
I don't know about you, but I didn't want to talk about my divorce. So this podcast has been going on since May of 2020. Started off talking about joy. It's a faith-based podcast, but anyone is welcome. And I just felt like this nudging in my spirit. And I'm like, Lord, I don't want to talk about my divorce, because I think I still harbored a little bit of guilt, a little bit of shame. People in the faith community, if you go to church or whatever, I mean, that can be an issue. Even in 2026, that can be an issue, which is terrible to say. And we need to get rid of that.
Yeah.
We need to understand that we are loved. So I said, fine, we're gonna start this. And I agree with you as far as just like not knowing where to go and what to do, because fortunately, listen, we know there's a lot of divorce. I actually didn't grow up a child of divorce. Now, I'm not saying that my parents' marriage was perfect, because it was not, but I didn't. And then when I got divorced, my mother had already passed. And my father was beginning to go through dementia. So I really, and they didn't have that experience anyway. So I didn't have anybody to talk to.
Yeah.
So ladies, I guess a couple points I want to point out. Don't feel embarrassed or ashamed. Don't feel stupid. I guess is what I want to say. Do not feel stupid, because we are all out there with you. We've either experienced it before or we can help you through it. And then number two, if you're not finding what you need, go out there and do it. Yeah. Go out there and do it. We're in the time where we can do that now.
Yeah. You know, I got to tell you something about what I find is most important about sharing our story, and it piggybacks off of what you just said. For the ladies out there that are going through this, the moment that I felt seen and heard by somebody else, it was incredible what happened inside of my body. The confidence level changed. My outlook changed. Everything seemed to shift. And I don't think that if somebody has lived their life, haven't felt seen and heard and acknowledged, then they may not realize the power in that shift. Mm-hmm. And when I did, I was like, you know what? It makes so much sense to create a space, create an environment where somebody else can come and receive that same love and light that I did. Because it was such a big change for me once I just felt seen and heard.
That's what community will do.
Yeah.
That is what the right community will do. There's some communities out there that, that are a little bit too negative. Yeah. But the right community will do that. So I completely agree with you. Yeah, absolutely. And whether you find that community online or at a church or wherever you find it, seek it out. Because withdrawing, and you kind of talked about not being able to go out because kids, right? but withdrawing internally is not the thing to do.
Agreed.
So when I wasn't divorced yet, but it was difficult. My husband had some medical issues, some psychological medical issues. And I was talking to an old girlfriend. I mean, I went to elementary school with her and we kind of reconnected. So we were talking and she said, Yvette, can I tell you something? And I said, sure. She said, you sound depressed. I'm like, well, I probably am, because of everything that's going
observation.
On. Good observation. Yes, but I hadn't made that observation. It took someone else to tell me. Yeah, definitely. So tell me, some of the stories that have come out of your group, but what are some of the stories that you have heard that you guys have talked about on the podcast that you think really made a connection with others?
Oh, I love that question. Thank you. I mentioned that the podcast just started. It's been about a year or so, maybe not quite. And so a lot of the podcasts that we've done, we do a once a month episode. So it's not, like a weekly thing. A lot of it's really been about our stories. We started out with that because we wanted to be vulnerable. We wanted to share with our audience that, hey, we've been through this too. And like you said, no question is silly or insignificant. No conversation either is silly or insignificant, especially when you're going through something like this. And so we wanted to make it a real point to share that first and foremost. So that's been kind of the majority of what the episodes have sort of been surrounding, as well as some other topics such as handling parenting time through the holidays, co-parenting tips and things like that as you're going through the transition. So that's mainly been the sort of atmosphere that we've been promoting so far. We are now in 2026, though, starting to have guests come on to the show, which I'm really excited about. Where we have one scheduled, actually next week is when we record, and we have one scheduled that is not only a divorced mama of 5 herself, but she also she does legal documents. So she will help you if it's a very amicable situation. You don't need to bring an attorney on board, but you just need somebody to write up your legal.
Yeah.
She does that. And so we're going to ask her obviously about her story and kind of see how that unfolded and how she became that based on, what she went through in life.
Yeah. Wow.
So that's what we have coming up.
That's so good. So, you are giving out all this great wisdom to moms and to people who are going through divorce right now. Have you learned anything? How has this touched you and Miranda? And listen, Miranda was supposed to come on today. I would love to have her back. She can come on sometime. But has there been anything that you're like, this is actually helping me out?
It's really the being transparent, the sharing of my story, the being seen and heard, even if it's just from Miranda, because it's just usually her and I on the show kind of having a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
But I have received some feedback on the episodes, messages from the audience, things like that, thumbs up, messages of appreciation. And so for me, I always will say, and I often say it on the show, if I can touch just one person, just one woman, if I can help her through her day, if I can help give her a different perspective, if I can support her in a way from our show that changes the trajectory of her experience, I've done my job. And
100%.
that is so fulfilling to me. That's so fulfilling.
Mm-hmm.
I am on this earth to serve, and I know that I am on this earth to serve. And once I listened to that message, right?
Mm-hmm.
It changed everything for me.
Beautiful. No, that's really beautiful. So how can people become part of the community? And would you say that there's benefits to being in MomNation, which is the overall group, even if you are divorced? Because you've got MomNation, and then you've got the sister divorce group.
Correct. We thought that it would be wise to sort of break away and break away in a sense, not totally right, but create a space where we can have these conversations with moms. We share a bit more content that is just specifically divorce related in there. We do share it in MomNation. AZ is the big group, what we call it. We're in Arizona, by the way.
Yeah.
We do share it in there as well, but that is a large group and the feed moves fast. And we wanted to make sure that the women that needed to see it. And so they're able to sort of seek it out a little bit more easily by us, separating the two. But in the big group, as we call it, for obvious reasons, it's the big one, we have many other resources. So, I just told you about the licensed couples counselor. We have another podcast, which I won't go through all of them because we do have many. You'll be here all day with me. But we have another one that is also with another licensed therapist that is more, her name is Laura Wood, and she is more focused on your inner self. As a female, as a mom, as a sister, as a daughter, we've had that podcast for several years, and we talk through a lot of different scenarios there. Of course, there's the regular Q&A. Hey, my baby has a rash. What do you think it is? Kind of, conversation that we've all seen in moms groups. So it does operate like your typical moms group in a sense.
Yeah.
With just a whole bunch of resources behind it.
Yeah. No, that's awesome.
Thanks.
Gosh, I mean, you're doing, I would say you're doing the Lord's work. You're doing some really great work out there. Yeah.
I believe that, Yvette. I am, faith-based myself. And, thank you for bringing that up, because something that you had said earlier in the show was something I wanted to comment on, and then we pivoted. But I'm also a real estate agent. I have been for 2 decades here in Arizona, and I have been focused on, it's not my entire focus, but I have been focused pretty sharply on divorcing couples, and I have a lot of them. And it kind of started naturally, started a couple of years ago. Again, I can relate because I've been through it, and I went through it as a kid, but I did have a conversation not too long ago where one of my faith-based friends said to me, well, don't you think that contradicts what you believe in, supporting women in divorce?
Wow. We've got something to say about that.
Don't we? So it is still out there, and I definitely will join the I don't want to even call it a fight, but I definitely rise against that. Even though I am faith-based, I feel like we need to support our people when they go through major transitions. Yeah. And when I was 19 years old, and I decided to marry my first husband, I didn't know anything. And it just would be so hard for me to live by those, I'm sorry, but by those promises now at, 46 years old. I just didn't know anything back then.
Yeah. Well, I hear you. And I always say that, yes, the Bible says that divorce is not ideal. It's not God's ideal for us. But, we're human, things happen. Yeah. And the thing that I came out of it was I felt unloved and unlovable after that. I just felt like no one was ever going to love me again. I had a lot of grief and shame. And for me, in my story, the Lord met me right where I was and said, nope, I love you and will always love you. So don't worry about that. And that's the message. That's the message. We are loved. And so, yeah, that is the message that I really want people to hear, no matter kind of where you are in life, because that can follow you. I mean, it really can. Yeah. That perspective and that you're unworthy, that whole unworthiness thing, which is not necessarily even faith-based, but oh boy, we women we can carry a lot of guilt and shame, can't we?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. And this is something that, again, on one of the pods we've talked about quite a bit, is how we've just been programmed. Maybe not all of us. And, big shout out to those of us who weren't programmed this way as little girls. But I feel like a lot of us do feel that way and do kind of, move in those motions based on just our conditioning from way back when. And I'm here to say we can't do this to little girls anymore, because it's definitely a difficult hill to climb once you become a big girl.
No, so true. And one of my most listened episodes, and I think part of it was because she came from a very interesting community, and that was an Amish community.
Oh, yeah.
But she had a husband who just was not right. And ultimately, he made the decision to leave. She didn't even. But I said, she told me that her girls came to her after that, like after she'd gotten divorced and she was trying to pick herself up by her 2 feet and all that type of thing. Her girls came to her and said, Mom, we see you and we see how you're being strong and things like that. And I have to say that I just want to shout out that kind of, purpose.
Yes.
Your children are watching you.
That's
They see what you're putting up with, and they know their mom doesn't necessarily deserve all that.
Yeah.
So either something has to happen. I'm not saying everybody needs to get divorced, but there needs to be communication or something, because your children are watching you and they are growing up with what they're seeing. Mm-hmm. And again, I can't say that I have no children, but I know that to be true.
It's very true. And they're watching you more than you think. And they're absorbing and mimicking more than you think.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So again, really, really important work. Very important work. Yeah. Yeah. Well, definitely, I'm going to get all the links from you, so we'll have them in the show notes below, so people can join your community, listen to your podcasts. We jokingly talked about a book that you're going to write, right?
Yes, this is on my list of things to do.
Okay, very good. Well, when that happens, we will share for sure. And and we'll have Miranda on the show. I can't wait I didn't know about some of the other podcasts, so I can't wait to dive into those and really fully see the breadth of your community. I think you're doing really good work.
Well, thank you.
I really appreciate you. Thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Oh, you are so welcome. It was my pleasure, my honor. I really appreciate you as well. And thank you for having the hard conversations, because I think a lot of these conversations are hard to have. But once we continue to have them and support our female community, it's going to be easier and easier.
Absolutely. Amen to that. Thank you, Katie.
Thank you.